Harris improves on Biden's performance against Trump. New polls are coming out since the swap out, and it's been looking pretty good momentum wise. Oh, here, let's see what the possible paths to victory are.
Victory over Donald Trump.
The path to the White House goes through Wisconsin.
Saying they will, quote, play offense in the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that Biden was able to flip in 2020, and the Sun Belt states of North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, where the campaign argues the vice president's advantages with young voters, black voters, and Latino voters offer multiple pathways to
literally these two, Palestine, these specifically the ones on the West Coast, immigration. I'm not fucking Harry Enton, but I know what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. Okay?
For the president, including women, younger voters, black voters, and Hispanic voters. Those groups critical to Biden's victory in 2020.
I've been saying this for fucking months, okay? Horrible instincts to just like go with a right-wing reactionary framing on immigration if you want to capture any of the youth vote, any of the Hispanic vote in Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico. These are places where you have to take a different approach, not one that is just like a lighter version of the Republican Party sentiment against immigrants.
Today about capping the cost of insulin at $35, passing the child tax credit, addressing student loans, among other policy issues. Jake?
All right, Eva McCann in Indianapolis, thanks so much.
We've heard a lot from politicians about Vice President Harris taking over for Joe Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket, but the crucial question is, what do voters think? And today we're going to get the first snapshot of how they view Kamala Harris, who used her first rally as the presumptive presidential nominee to go after Donald Trump head on.
He and his extreme Project 2025 agenda will weaken the middle class. Like, we know we got to take this seriously. And can you believe they put that thing in writing? When you read it, you will see Donald Trump intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and make working families foot the bill. America has tried these failed economic policies before, but we are not going back.
And I'm here with CNN's David Chalian to break down what we're learning in this important new poll. Take it away.
Well, we got our first look at a Harris-Trump race that is no longer hypothetical. And what you see here is there's no clear leader in the top line of the horse race here. A 3-point margin. That's within the margin of error, Dana. Donald Trump at 49% support. Kamala Harris at 46% support. That's about half the margin that we saw in the Biden versus Trump matchup the last couple of months that we polled. That was a 6-point race. This one now is a 3-point race. And if you look here, broken out by party, you see near total consolidation among Democrats for Harris, similar, more than 9 in 10 Republicans for Trump. Take a look here at the independents. Trump has 46%, Harris has 43%. Biden was losing independents to Trump in the last couple of months, according to our polling, by roughly 10 points. Now Harris is just losing them by 3, though remember, Biden won them by 13 points in 2020 when he won that election.
Now let's talk about the coalition. What President, now former candidate for re-election, Joe Biden really struggled with was holding the Democratic coalition together. Where is Kamala Harris on that?
She's definitely making up ground with some of these key core constituencies. If you look here, this is a poll that we did with SSRS, contacting people we had polled in April and June, right? So you can actually track the movement. And you see here, young voters, it was a 7-point advantage for Trump in the spring over Biden. Now Kamala Harris has a 4-point advantage among young voters. Black voters, Joe Biden had a 47-point advantage in the spring. Kamala Harris has increased that to a 63 percentage point advantage there. Hispanic voters, Harris narrows Trump's advantage. But I just want to note again, Donald Trump numerically ahead among Hispanic voters within the margin of error. That was a key group in 2020 that Biden won overwhelmingly. So still work there to do for the Democrats. And among female voters, you see that Harris has increased the lead where they were tied among women when it was Biden on the ticket.
These numbers are fascinating, especially given that important piece of information you just gave us, which is that these our polling company, our colleagues, went back and talked to the exact same people that they talked to earlier.
I think one aspect that she has to fucking hammer that I think is like good messaging is Trump's tax cuts, right? I would just say this guy fucking lied to you, okay? This guy lied to every American that's making less than the top marginal tax rate every year. He turned around and he said he was going to cut everybody's taxes, and all he did was make permanent tax cuts for the mega wealthy in this country, permanent tax cuts for corporations in this country, and then your tax cuts were slated to sunset. I want to restore that. Like, I want to restore that process. I want to like Joe Biden said, no tax cuts for those, no tax increases for anyone making less than $400,000 a year, but tax increases for those making more than $400,000 a year. What does sunsetting mean? It means like it goes away. So all the tax cuts that the poor people saw, which was already marginal to begin with, is completely gone. They expire. We have to make sure that Americans that are high earners participate in the American process. Like, it's the most patriotic thing you can do. Fixing the fucking roads, funding public education, making this a better country. Donald Trump also lied and said he was going to increase capital gains tax, and then, of course, didn't do it, for the record. No, but Hasan, you're rich. You have to vote for Trump's tax cuts. Yeah, I know. I'm an idiot. As a class trader, I guess. Well, not even technically bourgeois, but still wealthy. Delegate preferences on VP are out. Not shocking, but the first pick is Shapiro. Fuck. I mean, Shapiro is the safety pick. Shapiro is to make sure that you win Pennsylvania. That's why a lot of people are doing that. My favorite tweet in regards to taxing the wealthy. Boo-hoo, imagine being one of the richest people in the richest state in the richest country in all of human history and complaining about giving back to the common good that made that high income possible in the first place. Yeah, it's a great way to talk about this. For the record, the tax cuts for the wealthy, the top marginal tax cuts stay. Those are permanent. The only ones that expire are for the working class.
Okay, let's talk about what voters want from their presumptive new nominee.
One of the numbers that just jumped off the page when the poll came back, Dana, was this is among Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. Do you want the next Democratic nominee, her name is Kamala Harris, we know, to continue Biden's policies or take the United States in a new direction? 53% say continue Biden's policies. 47% say take in a new direction. And
for the record, this, I suspect, means exactly what I've been saying. Perhaps because I'm biased. It means do something different in terms of the least popular aspects of Biden's election chances, Gaza and immigration, and continue the most popular aspects of Biden's policies, which is social progress, defending, and championing abortion, ensuring that women have bodily autonomy, and also at least like the advocacy for socially or fiscally progressive policies as well, like the litany of many economic policies that Biden has unveiled that are objectively popular and well received.
A near even split among Democrats looking for a new direction here. I think that is very interesting to watch forward how Kamala Harris campaigns on that. And then we've talked a lot about this all cycle long. Are you voting for a candidate or against a candidate? Take a look at what a difference a couple days make. For Harris, now it splits evenly. 50% of Harris supporters say they are casting their vote for her. 50% say they're doing it against Trump. Look at what that was when Biden was the nominee.
Yo!
2/3 of his votes were.
Yo! This has not been a thing since 2016. Not even. This has not been a thing since before 2016. Last time Democrats had percentages like this was Obama, dude. That's crazy. It's been damn near 20 fucking years since Democrats have actually said they're not voting against insert Republican, usually Trump. Unfortunately, it's been Trump the last 3 times. That's crazy.
Against Trump, only about a third, 37% were for him. Harris changes that equation. Donald Trump, by the way, gets more affirmative support after the assassination attempt, after his convention. He's now up to 74% of his voters who say they are voting to cast their ballot for him. Only a quarter say they're casting their ballot to be opposed to Kamala Harris, Dana.
What's your takeaway?
Biden dead-enders kept trying to say the polls are actually going in a good direction. They were lying. This is polls moving in a good direction, just so you understand. This is exactly what it looks like when polls are moving in a positive direction.
Of what David just laid out.
That last data point is the one I'm most fascinated by, nerding out on some level, probably going a few layers deeper than maybe most people will be at this point in time. But I think what that shows is what I think a lot of us have picked up over the course of the last 36 hours, 48 hours, which is if you want to know what a collective exhale of an entire political party looks like, look into these numbers, both in the affirmative support of the vice president, 50%, where I think Joe Biden was at 37%, as David was just showing through. They are excited about a candidate when they weren't prior to now. Because of that, you are seeing many of the groups that form up their coalition, as David David was running through, start to come back home, which was always the pitch from the Biden team. They'll come back home eventually. They'll have to come back home eventually. They weren't coming back home. They may have, but they weren't up until the last couple of days. They are starting to now in the key demographic groups. I think that's critical. I think the big question right now is, I don't know that this changes what we would have assumed would have been the dynamics of what we knew was going to be a very, very close race at all on that front. It's just a matter of, can the coalition continue to come home in its entirety? And most importantly, those kind of 100 to 150,000 voters in those 7 critical states, where are they? And I think that's always going to be the question now that things seem to be aligning how Democrats and Republicans expected them to.
Yeah, and that's obviously, this is a national snapshot. It's important for us to see this. It's going to be those battleground states, wherever they are at this point, that will tell us who is going to ultimately become president next time around. But just on that question of coming home, a phrase that you just used, let's look at another way to approach our new numbers that we're just getting out. The question, the choice for president, basic question. Right now, Trump is still up 3. Again, this is a margin of error situation. But back just a couple months ago, if you look from April through June, up 6. So
football's coming out.
There is a slight shift in the direction of the Democrats.
And a slight shift because of the numbers that David pointed out, that so much of the key parts of that Biden-Harris coalition in 2020 are energized and excited for their Democratic nominee again. And, just going back to Phil's point, when, the Biden campaign's whole theory of the case is that we want it, once you put Joe Biden up against Donald Trump, people are going to remember what they didn't like about the Trump White House and then come home to the Democratic Party. But kind of politics 101 is you do have to be excited for your party's candidate. And it's just this level of enthusiasm that we're seeing for the Democratic Party is nothing that we saw on the scale of what we saw on Joe Biden's behalf for so much of the last year and a half. And another number that I was just so struck by in the poll, where it said 90% of Democrats approved of Biden's decision to end his candidacy. I mean, we knew that that tells you his staying in the race was going to be an unsustainable situation. And just whether that energy of the Democratic Party right now, bleeds into those independent voters that are so critical that President Biden won in 2020, that, former President Trump is doing better with right now, yet to be seen clearly. But I think that, I don't know if Democrats could have had a better 48 hours.
We've been talking a lot about Biden's progressive economic policy, but the material conditions where most Americans aren't getting much better. Biden has almost done nothing to mitigate this, and according to a lot of people, has only made the issue worse. To me, defending Biden only makes us fools and idiots and will cost us in the long run. Could you point me to some sources to support your claims? Everything that I'm talking about is what Biden is campaigning on in terms of like a rent cap. As far as like what Biden has done in terms of like the infrastructure bill, that's good. Those are objectively good bills that he passed that have opened up new facilities that are unionizing. The IRA was good. I mean, it was obviously not as good as what it was supposed to be, but it was still good. The IRA was a mixed bag at best. He gutted the COVID-era social safety net, though, and kicked tens of millions off Medicaid. Ultimately, infrastructure spending is broadly popular and a good thing. It is absolutely what was necessary at the time. They didn't pass it because they're fucking progressive champions of economic justice. They passed it because there was no other way. I do not like you. Fuck yourself. Oh, I'm sorry.